So we're gonna do some spell tests. I'm on a Sorc. What is this? How many uses of tumble you have? That's it? I have one use? No, I have two. Where do I want to keep this fun little... Maybe right there? Let's see, can we make it look cool? What if we put it right there? And then we sit this on that. Huh? How about that? They added like a bunch of new stuff into this. There's the experimental tumble. Not sure it's in this one. It might be in this one. Show tumble UI. It's right there. We're going to leave it on for now. We're going to try to test the damage for spellcasters with the various epic strikes. We'll go into the extreme challenge, which is where we went before. This character has 20 Reaper points. The build right now, as it sits, is a variation of my normal build. We get a heal, we get knockdown immunity, negative energy resistance, we get enchantment DCs here. Bunch of other good stuff there, evasion and reflex saves. Most of the build is here, so we're getting the energy burst as our epic strike, evocation DCs, and then we've got this ruin intensified because we are a ruin build. And so we'll take a look and see how ruin hits while we're in Draconic, and then when we switch out of it, we'll see how well it does without it. As a sorcerer, I can force anything to take my fire damage, so that shouldn't be an issue with our ruin. This ruin is untyped damage, but Draconic adds extra fire damage to it, so it should hit really hard. This character, though, is kind of squishy, so...
At the end of the passage ahead, you can see a fortress floating in the silvery mists of the astral plane. The Slod's defensive shield collapses as it comes into...
Alright, that was our energy burst. Here is our ruin. Oh, the ruin actually destroyed him. That's great. The only issue I can see with ruin is that I just used up 12% of my total spell points. And I really only cast like 3 spells, so it's just super expensive.
The lever activates, and one of the signal crystals by the barrier flares alight.
But it hits really, really hard. Alright, there's a slot right there. So what I want to do with these slots is kind of... They have immunities to various... like energies. You can see he's taking less fire damage than normal. But he's got the Draconic dot on him. My mantle will throw a dot dealing the damage. So delayed blast fireball hit him really hard. Here's just a ruin just off the cuff, just hitting this slot with the ruin. hit really, really hard. So Ruin is still really great. In Draconic, anyway. Add to that
A
Ruin
wave of
damage,
energy
all of the
rushes from
extra
small
damage you
tower
get.
as the barrier blocking the entrance is disrupted.
I'm gonna try a couple of other spells. So I want to try. This is Meteor Swarm. It did pretty well. Gonna do on that thrall right there. We'll hit him with a Ruin. It hit him pretty hard. I'm going to Energy Burst him too, since he's got the dot on him. The Energy Burst did nothing, really. It's unfortunate. That's a Delayed Blast Fireball. That hit really hard. It's another Delayed Blast Fireball. There's another Delayed Blast Fireball. So Delayed Blast Fireball is hitting really hard. Here's a Meteor Swarm. Meteor Swarm damage is not that good when you compare it to the Delayed Blast Fireball anyway. I mean, not terrible because of the mantle, but here's an Energy Burst. See if I can kill this. Energy Burst was hardly no damage at all. Alright, so what I want to see is what this regular fireball does. No, that's not that bad. And here's our Scorch. Okay. We'll try the Energy Burst one more time. It was alright, 8,600. You know, I love the Draconic Mantle. I just don't like the Epic Strike at all. Like, I think if you're a Ruin build, probably the best thing to do is to just completely use another Epic Strike. Which is basically what we'll try to do. We'll try to find a good Epic Strike for me. Because I don't think that Energy Burst is the way to go anymore. So we're going to pop our epic moment for this fight, because this fight will be pretty difficult for us.
The innocuous chest lets out an unexpected roar as it attacks.
Turn him to gold. Alright, so let's get some damage on this dude. That's our Delayed Blast Fireball. There's our Meteor Swarm. That's okay. A lot of that damage is coming from the mantle itself. That was our Energy Burst. That was alright. That's okay. Ah, the thing burst me and killed me. I have 1,500 hit points too. That thing hit me for like 2,000 just now. Yeah, you know, they highlighted all this new stuff in the UI, but I don't see a highlight of the actual damage. I see a highlight of the message you were killed by something, but I don't see an actual message for the amount of damage. But it was a lot. Alright, so then what can we do? Talk to this dude here. It says it. Oh, I already got it. Okay, that's good. So we need to find an Epic Strike. Right, we need to find an epic strike because energy burst just really isn't cutting it anymore. It's just not... it's not like super terrible, but it, you know, I really only saw it hit for like 6 or 8,000, which he used to do double if not triple that. So I think that the fact that I have to like jump into the middle of mobs and do it, and it costs 25 spell points and it takes 12 seconds for a cooldown, I just think there's like a better epic strike that we could use. What that epic strike is, likely it will be something. So we can try the epic strike out of Shadow Dancer first, since we're already in Shadow Dancer. So it'll basically just be like moving around some points. It also might mean that I have to like leave Shadow Dancer. I use this as like a good treat because I get enchantment DCs, I get negative energy immunity, I get evasion, and I get a bunch of like reduced threat and, you know, just like a lot of good stuff in Shadow Dancer to get to help. But this Shadow Strike is force damage. It doesn't hit very hard. Shadow Loss is okay, but that puts like a 5-minute debuff on them. So I don't think that's the one we're going to find. Likely what would be better. So what we want to do is see if Ruin still works without having this Ruin intensified, because, you know, we can demonstrate it again. It just makes... I don't know why I went there. That was like a complete bug. So that Ruin intensified just makes our Ruin hit that much harder. Like it's really nice. This dragon leap here is what I was hoping they gave to the Dragon Lord, where we actually can see the wings, but... So we'll stay away from the Mimic, since this character can get one shot by that Mimic. We'll just deal with the Slods. So we'll just take a look at the Ruin damage again, just...
At the end of the passage ahead, you can see a fortress.
So here we hit it with our first fire spell. That makes it take the damage, and here's Ruin. So basically it just does a ton of damage. It was like 30,000 damage almost that we did with one cast. Now it's super expensive at it's 169 spell points. But the damage is boosted because of this. So what we want to see is, can I jump out of this tree and still have Ruin hit really hard? Or is it tied to this tree? You know, do I have to then stay? In Draconic? Because if I have to stay in Draconic, that's okay. Here's my energy burst. See, about 8,200. We're going to hit that Thrall there. And then we'll Ruin him. Hit him pretty well for like about 20,000. We'll do a Ruin on another one. Okay, we're ruining this one here. So that was quite a bit too. It's about 20,000. The damage on Meteor Swarm is still terrible. Here's the Epic Strike. See, that was about 6,000. It's super underwhelming. Like, yeah, it's an AoE, so that's okay. Alright, here's a ruin on a slot that I haven't touched yet. It's not bad. 8 and 7. So what we would lose out on is that extra damage at the end. But it's very good in the sense that everything is taking it. Apparently, I no longer have spell components, so I will need to buy spell components. Okay, so we drop out of Draconic. If we drop out of Draconic completely, we tested it. Like, the main reason we're in here, not only for just the general dot that we get from that mantle, which is really good, but for the ruin intensified, because we're a ruin build, right? So ruin is just so expensive, though. It costs 200 spell points to use it, so it just obliterates our spell casting ability unless we like run around with spell potions, which we don't. So normally what I would do to deal with that is go into Primal Avatar and grab Evergreen, which would allow us to refresh our, we get like spell points constantly refreshed to us. But in order to qualify to get Evergreen, you have to use the Primal Avatar Mantle. That's okay. The Primal Avatar Mantle is good. Since we're a Fire Sorc, we can get the Fire Mantle, which is the Heart Mantle, which I like. I use it all the time. That's fine. The problem with that is, though, that the Fire Epic Strike is not really that good. The Spring to Summer, it's basically a burst, a small radius around us that does a rejuvenation cocoon and then bursts into flame, and then fire damage goes out. But it's basically like, we can actually test it just so you can see what I'm talking about, but it's not very this is force damage, and since our ruin is doing force, we'll take that. This is Reborn in Fire. I've seen people use this with success. This like blasts fire around you again, but also it does a really big heal. So if you wanted to take like a heal, that would be good. Otherwise, Shard Storm gives you temporary hit points if you enhance it with this, which is really good. And the damage on Shard Storm is still good. They didn't kill Shard Storm. You know, they killed Carrion Swarm, but they did not kill Shard Storm. So Shard Storm is still worth using, in my opinion. Alright, so there's our Evergreen. Alright, there's a little Heart Guardian that I like to use. I use this build all the time. There, we'll take Frog just because. No reason to take this Epic Moment, because this Epic Moment is not very good. It's okay. It only lasts 20 seconds, and it just really makes us, like, we can do damage by moving through things. We become harder to hit. We go a lot faster, but it's really, I found it sort of underwhelming, so. Okay, I'll show you guys the spring to summer. The Epic Strike. You know what I want to do though, because Meteor Swarm. I'm going to keep my Delayed Blast Fireball. So there's the Epic Strike. There's Ruin. We don't have that anymore. We don't have that anymore. So we might as well put Frog there. We don't have that. Alright, so in this mantle, we should be able to keep a lot more of our spell points.
At the end of the passage ahead, you can see a fortress floating in the silvery mists of the astral plane.
Alright, so here's the Epic Strike from Primal, the Fire Epic Strike.
As it comes into contact with
You can see, it just hit for like 1,000. Here's Shard Storm. Shard Storm will continue to hit pretty well. Here's our Ruin. The Ruin did not hit that hard. That was Delayed Blast Fireball. Okay, here's our Greater Ruin. So it just did 7,000. Here's the Epic Strike. Just did about 1,000. So it's not a very good Epic Strike at all. But Ruin is a lot worse. Like, here it is again. Actually. Okay, here it is. There's about 8,000 for our Greater Ruin. And the Lesser Ruin comes in at about 4,000. So about half that. Yeah, it's unfortunate. So it's not really something that we can use. We can't really use this Epic Strike. Not reliably anyway. Like, it doesn't really help us. So I wouldn't use that at all. Make sure we have everything, like, quickened and... thought that I had them all down here. I do. Okay, so I don't have to worry about doing them individually. I just turn them all on. Alright, we're gonna hit this dude with a greater ruin just out of nowhere. See what it does. Okay, here it is. It did about 8,000 damage. We'll see if the epic strike from primal can hit him from here. I don't think it can. No, it just basically blows up around us. It's like a very close to us. Yeah, so in order for us to use ruin, we kind of have to stay in Draconic. And so what's probably going to happen is we need to find a strike that we can use while staying in Draconic and switching out our epic strike from what it was as energy burst to something new. It would be really nice if we could stay in Primal Avatar for Evergreen, but it doesn't make any sense to, because we're still going through a ton of spell points, and we no longer qualify for the extra ruin damage, which doesn't make any sense if we're going to be a ruin build. Like, we could always change the build, but if we're going to stay a ruin build, then we need to get back into Draconic, because that 7,000 is just not enough. It doesn't justify the costs, the 200 spell point cost. It just doesn't, it loses all its appeal to even cast it if you're not boosting it. So now we know that. We know that in order to stay a ruin build, we have to go back into Draconic. The Primal Avatar Fire Epic Strike doesn't really work beyond throwing out a heal and like local fire damage. Doesn't really. Again, we'll do it right next to this dude here. Like, he didn't take any fire damage at all because it's just right around us. And it wasn't able to turn him into a frog. It's almost like the DPS we get off a color spray does more damage than the ruin. I mean, look at how expensive that is. 200 spell points. That's just insane. So this is not a good idea. Like, this is bad. We need to fix this and come up with something better.